Welcome to the Mosaic podcast. We're so happy to have you here. The Mosaic Society is all about celebrating the intersections of our identity, whether it's through culture, spirituality, or civics. We're three friends exploring these paths together. I'm T. Marie, your cultural mosaic.
I'm Roseberry, the voice of the spiritual mosaic.
And I'm Shreya, bringing in the civic mosaic. Our mission is to strengthen friendships through exploring each other's passions and to inspire confidence for you to show up as your true self in your communities.
We'll be sharing new insights, ideas, and conversations each week with fresh posts every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And of course, this podcast on Sundays. So let's dive in and explore the many intersections of identity together. Hi, everyone. We're back. This week, we are talking about cancel culture, which is more of an external facing podcast more than internal that we usually do. So this is first time for us. We're going to try our best with this form or this
Yes.
style of topic. Okay, diving in. Also, it's our themed week. It's our second themed week, and we're focusing on cancel culture. So if you don't know, once a month we have a themed week where we pick a topic that we dive into, but from different perspectives. You'll get it. Just listen and you'll understand what's going on. So starting off with cancel culture, what we're going to do first is give our own definitions of cancel culture, like in our own words, and how it's manifested over time. So our understanding of it.
So, in my own words, I feel like cancel culture is the public condemnation of either a public figure or like an entity, like a company. I think it's a time where the public masses express their disapproval for either the actions or the words of someone or something. And it's like a removal of support or regard that was previously given to something. And I think the concept of like canceling something has been around for a long time. I think it's Gen Z that kind of has really had like this cancel culture mindset, environment, I don't know what you would call it, kind of form, but I think it kind of naturally happened with like the rise of social media. Social media grew as we grew. But yeah, I think it takes on a much different form just because we have this way of being more connected to things like companies and public figures through platforms like social media, and it allows us to insert our opinion in a way that years ago you had to do it a different way that wasn't as direct. So I think it has led to cancel culture just becoming a lot more prevalent and rampant, and something that public figures think about way more when they are in their roles doing stuff. People, I think public figures have to be more aware of it because it's a very real thing that happens in your career. Your influence, your connections can seriously be impacted by it. But yeah, I think ultimately it's just a removal of support and condemnation of public people or entities.
I like that.
I agree with what T said. My definition was mostly looking at it as cancel culture is the epitome of the court of public opinion in a way. The public have now with social media and earlier also had the power to decide whether a person's behavior or a public figure's behavior is considered appropriate and inappropriate. But cancel culture is a way to punish the person. So it's a form of condemnation, yes, but it's also a way of censuring somebody who's done something wrong. So it's punishment in a way. So that's how I look at cancel culture. It's like societal justice, but in an informal manner.
Sure. Um, Mine is my definition is similar to both of y'all. So me, okay, I feel like cancel culture originated as a tool for enforcing moral and ethical standards with the rise of social media. That's what cancel culture was. That's what the goal was, the purpose. And I think with the rise of social media and how powerful social media is nowadays, it's moved from accountability to punishment. So now it's like it went from cancel culture is like a philosophy or a social phenomenon where individuals are held accountable for their actions, but instead of held accountable, now it's punished. And so it's a blurry line because on one hand, it's like with the rise of the first wave of Black Lives Matter movement around like 2013, 2014, and then like the rise of the Me Too movement, it really was about accountability. It was about allowing people to tell their stories. It was about holding people accountable for the harm that they've created in society. And now it's kind of moved into like, because anyone can get canceled now, basically. If you get caught in something or someone tells a story about you, you can get canceled. So now it's just a matter of like destroying someone's reputation, which makes me feel like cancel culture has also lost a lot of credibility because anyone can be canceled because sometimes people just lie. Like there's many situations where people have just lied and then someone gets canceled and then you find out the truth, but it's too late. So cancel culture is very powerful and it's moved at some point from holding people accountable to punishing people for their behaviors. Yeah. Hold on, I feel like I had something else. Yes, sorry. I was too excited. Okay. Because it's not about accountability anymore and now it's more about punishment, it has lacked the ability for people to change. So people don't really have the opportunity anymore to change and grow from their mistakes. I'm not saying like when you're out here saying the N word and like being racist and sexist and all that, like cancel culture works well when it comes to situations like that. But there are some situations where people just need to grow. Like some people are just young. They don't know. They need to learn. And cancel culture now doesn't give people the opportunity to learn. That's all I have to say. Okay. So now, based off of our definitions, what we thought would be interesting is if we presented like some form of a case study based off of our three different um, perceptions of cancel culture. So we're going to talk about the very hot topic of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, which has been going on for I don't even know how long. I guess technically like mid last year, like mid 2024, and then blew up in December, and now they have a court date in 2026. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We're gonna give a quick summary of it and then dive into our different analysis.
Okay, so the controversy basically revolves around the legal battle that started off as a tiff between, or apparently started off as a tiff between the lead actors and producers, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. A little more about the movie. It Ends With Us is based or is adapted from Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel and generated immense anticipation as well and was financially successful as well, grossing over $350 million globally. But issues between the actors caught public attention sometime during the press tour, and rumors were rife. And that's only escalated from a tiff to an all-out legal battle right now. Voices.
The situation took a serious turn when Lively filed a legal complaint against Baldoni in December 2024, accusing him and his production company, Wayfarer Studios, of sexual harassment and workplace misconduct. Alleged that Baldoni and his team retaliated against her through a smear campaign designed to damage her reputation. Baldoni denied the accusations and countersued Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds for $400 million, citing defamation, civil extortion, and invasion of privacy. He also filed a separate $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times for its reporting on the matter.
Announced them. Amidst the legal battle, Baldoni released outtakes from a romantic scene in the film to refute Lively's allegations. While Lively's team maintained that the footage showed clear instances of inappropriate behavior, a voicemail of Baldoni apologizing to Lively also surfaced, further complicating the dispute. Hollywood figures, including Blake's Sisterhood of Traveling Pants co-stars, publicly supported her, while Baldoni's credibility suffered and his Women's Advocacy Award was rescinded and his female podcast co-host, resigned. The legal dispute is set to go to trial in March of 2026, with both parties facing ongoing scrutiny. The case has sparked wider discussions on power dynamics in Hollywood and the handling of workplace misconduct allegations.
So based off of that summary, we're just going to go and talk about, or I guess analyze the case study, the Blake and Justin conflict. Anyone can go first. We're just going to talk about it through the lens of what we're writing this week. So who wants to go first?
In my article, I'm going to be talking about if cancel culture really works, and if so, who does it work for and in what situations. So on top of the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case, I'm also going to be looking at several other celebrities who experienced getting canceled, such as Leah Michelle, Iggy Azalea, Young Philly, and more. So the Justin and Blake case is obviously an ongoing situation, so we'll have to see. through to the end to see if either side is truly canceled and what the ramifications are. But something that I think is really interesting to note thus far is the public opinions on each and what impact it has had on their careers and their personal lives. So Blake's reputation has been called into question a lot recently. A lot of old interview clips, a lot of old connections that she's had with former co-stars has been reignited on the internet. A lot of people are now giving commentary on it, and even some of her most famous friends are taking a step back from her. We've seen with Taylor Swift, after she was brought in legally, she's taken a public step back from Blake. And then on the other side, we've already mentioned how Justin has had his credibility called into question, his achievements rescinded, and we don't know what the long ramifications will be, but cancel culture is already impacting both of them. So it'll be really interesting to see with the positions that both they have as Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, what impact that has, and if they are canceled, will they stay canceled? What does the future hold for them? So that's what I'll be talking about.
This week, I'm talking about cancel culture and if it's accountability or punishment. And I'm just going to preface this. If you are watching this, I'm going to be looking down a lot because I have notes and I don't want to get anything wrong. If you're listening, it makes no difference to you. Anyway, so the controversy between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, I think, really perfectly encapsulates cancel culture and the duality it has. Because what we don't talk about a lot is that in cancel culture, someone loses, but someone also kind of wins. A lot of times it's like someone gets canceled for something they've done to someone else. Like if you think about like recently with Coke allegedly fired a bunch of their Hispanic workers, and now everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna go get Pepsi. So Pepsi's having an increase in their stocks, an increase in their, what is it, sales. Yeah. So like someone always wins in cancel culture. And I think with this situation with Justin and Blake, depending on the day, it was like Justin's winning, Blake's winning, Justin's winning, Blake's winning. And so it kind of takes on the issue of like, why is someone winning in cancel culture if the whole point of it was to hold people accountable for what they've done and the harm that they have caused? Hold on, next point. Okay, so in the footage that I think Justin released, right? He released the romantic footage of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how like we're taking this like 30-second footage, however long the footage is, and then we're coming to conclusions on our own. And depending on who you believe more, you can see Blake's side. You can be like, oh yeah, he is crossing boundaries. Or you can see Justin's side and you're like, oh, this is fine. This is what you guys agreed on. So it's kind of, it has a friendly discussion about how we're portraying the people that these celebrities that we don't have a connection with. Like their stories are out there, and based off of the stories that we're being told and we're seeing in cancel culture, we get to decide what's right and what's wrong. And with just this whole situation with Justin and Blake, I want to say 50% are on his side and 50% on her side. So now it's like bringing to attention, well, none of us have the facts. At the end of the day, everything we've been presented is either opinion or it's been presented as facts, and then what is it, like, discredited. So we're still taking this information and canceling people. Like it doesn't make sense. We're trying to give people punishment for something that we don't even know that they've done yet. We're jumping to the conclusion of something that we don't know yet. And the court date's not till next year. So we're not gonna know. But if Blake puts out a book today or if Justin puts out a book today, the sales are gonna show some type of like, what is it, lower revenue? I'm not a finance person. There's not going to be as many people buying the books as beforehand. There's not going to be as many people going to the movies as beforehand, based off of information that we don't know. So it's like we're already punishing them just because it's like the trendy thing to do, which I don't think is right. Again, like we don't know the truth. So this is just like based off my thoughts and opinions of what's going on. And then that 30-second clip, you know how, I guess I know we've learned that based off of our master's degree, but how like a little miscommunication can cause huge conflict. Like a little thing that someone didn't understand, like maybe you perceived it this way and someone else perceived it that way. It causes conflict. And usually, like, if you're not in front of a camera, if you're not a celebrity, if you're not an influencer or whatever, you can kind of like work through the miscommunication, or you never have to see that person again if you never solve the problem. That can't happen in situations like this when you're releasing footage of a romantic scene and people have the perception that they have of the two of you. or when you're releasing text messages, or when you're giving allegations. Like, it could have just been a small miscommunication, could have, I don't know. But instead of them just sitting down and working through it, it's blown up into this big thing, and both of them trying to utilize cancel culture for their own gain, trying to win. So it's really complicated. Even talking about it confuses me because I'm trying to make sure I'm not talking about things like they're fact. I'm trying to make sure I'm talking about
Mm.
things like their opinion.
Yeah.
But then I get confused because I'm like, I don't even know what I believe or what I'm thinking. But nothing is confirmed. So I don't know. There's that. This week I'm talking about cancel culture. Is it accountability or is it punishment? And when did the switch happen? If so.
Great.
That ties into a lot of what I'm going to say in my article as well. So, agree with a lot of what you're saying. The questions that come up with cancel culture is super relevant in society today. So, I'll be talking about social media trials in my article, and it touches upon a lot of what Rose just mentioned. But mainly, what I want to look at is how the court of public opinion has now gotten a lot more power than it had maybe 20 years ago. There was always a court of public opinion. You can look at all the major cases. What was that one? OJ?
Hmm.
Yeah, that was also something that went through the court of public opinion in a way. People had decided, the media and narratives and lot of stuff happened there. I'm not getting into the justice element of it, but just that there was a lot of people had opinions. Social media, however, gives a platform to anybody and everybody to express their opinions and use those opinions to change the narrative. Now, that shakes the legal system up, sometimes for the good, especially when you're looking at there's a huge imbalance of power, like all that happened with the Me Too movement. Huge, like when
Hmm.
you look at the people who were punished or those who received justice through cancel culture during the Me Too movement, social media trials helped them. And then you look
Yeah.
at other cases where maybe it's not the best thing because one, there's a presumption of innocence, which is lost in all of it. There's also the idea that social media is available everywhere. You can't really escape it. And how exactly a juror is supposed to maintain their impartiality? First of all, impartiality in a jury is a thing altogether. I don't believe in that concept, but whatever supposed impartiality they're supposed to have, how are they supposed to maintain that? So if you look at what was that one, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, I was actually going to talk about that in my article because I feel that is one case where social media played a huge role in how it went down, how people perceived what had happened. Without
Hmm.
social media, maybe the public would have reacted in a very different way to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So yeah, I think it's trial by media has its benefits when there is a huge imbalance in power. When someone does not have that voice or doesn't have that platform where their voice can be heard, it's something that's needed. But I don't see that to be the case here. I don't see Justin Baldoni or Blake Lively being in a position where they need the public's help to fight their battles. They're rich.
Hmm.
They're popular. They don't need cancel culture to support their cause or to get what they need or to get justice. Anyway, talking about that.
I think in Justin's case, more than Blake's, he needs the social, what did you call it? What was the term you used? Social what?
Social media trial.
No, like the social support, I guess. Like, I think in Justin's case, he needs the
Okay.
social media support or social support more so than Blake. Mainly because I think he's a man who has oftentimes, sorry, he's a man who talks about gender differences, both when it comes to gender identity, gender expression, when it comes to the stereotypes we have. Like, he has a whole podcast called The Man Enough, talking about
Hmm.
masculinity and then bringing in femininity, right? So I feel like him being an outsider coming into the space of like woman empowerment, in order for him to continue on with that career, I think he needs the social support. With Lively, I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't really follow her and what she does. I don't know much outside of Gossip Girl. And I have heard the negative rumors since before this situation came up. So that's all I really know of her. So I'm not sure if she needs social support. I'd have to look into it. But I do think like in this situation, Justin could benefit from it, but he's kind of like dug a hole for himself. by doing this tit for tat back and forth.
Okay. I
Wait,
agree
C
with
has
you.
something to say?
Go ahead, sorry, I didn't see
Is
her.
it on the same, no, is it on the same wavelength or something different?
Same wavelength. I was gonna
Okay.
say I agree with Rose in that I think having the quote unquote public on your side helps Baldoni more than Lively,
Mm-hmm.
just because like the sheer difference in how connected they are. Blake,
Yeah.
I don't like to use her phrase, she has dragons, but she does. I mean, she has a lot of pull within the industry because of who she's connected with. And I don't want to say Nepo baby. She's connected. Her family is within entertainment. Ryan Reynolds has a lot of connections, and I think while it helps for her to have the public opinion, I think ultimately she has other connections
Avenues.
involved. Yeah, and avenues that she can take where she doesn't totally need it. Like it's not that wouldn't be her lifeline. You know what I mean?
Okay. So my opinion differs a little bit in that regard. I do agree with you if you look at who has more power in the situation, who has better connections, who's better connected with people in the industry, or generally who has more dragons. Blake Lively definitely does. She's married to a very rich man. She's accumulated a lot of wealth. So that's not what I meant though. What I meant was when you look at cancel culture in general, I think I envisioned it initially as something that was used to give justice to those or to help those who did not have any avenues. Justin Baldoni is not a nobody. Yeah, so that's what my point was. It wasn't about if you take the Harvey Weinstein case, all the victims of his crimes, they didn't have a voice except maybe Gwyneth Paltrow. But she didn't come out initially. She came out later. Point is, the initial complainants, the initial victims, they didn't have a voice. So the social media, cancel culture helped those women, especially in other industries. If you go beyond the United States, if you look at cases that came up in India, they didn't have a voice at all. So when someone uses public opinion or weaponizes the public opinion to gain support against someone who holds that much power, it makes sense in that kind of situation in my head. Here, I get it that he doesn't have as much power as Blake Lively, and that the public opinion and the support would help him. I just don't see why either of them had to weaponize it or try to weaponize it. It just didn't, it defeats the purpose of it. It makes this more, it makes it less about social justice and more about how you can manipulate for how people are feeling. And then it's just people are falling, oh, today Blake is right, tomorrow Justin's right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not sure I'm articulating it properly, but yeah, yeah.
I think you're articulating it properly, and I think it just brings up the point of like, honestly, there's just two different cancel cultures. Like the one you're talking about with like the Me Too and the Harvey Weinstein and like giving voice to people who don't necessarily have the platform. I don't even know if that falls under cancel culture anymore. I feel like I don't know what that would fall under, maybe like advocacy or like social movements that are created. But I think cancel culture was like a branch off of that into like holding celebrities accountable. So it's like two different versions of cancel culture. So in the version of cancel culture that Justin and Blake are trying to use, trying to weaponize in a way, it honestly does a disservice and it's disrespectful to the original creation of cancel culture to give voice to the people who have been silenced. The Me Too, the Black Lives Matter movement, everything that happened. Like even like when you think about the civil rights era, there was cancel culture there, but it had honor and integrity. And now it's like a way that celebrities and influencers it's a thing that celebrities and influencers use to strengthen their reputation or tear down someone else's reputation, which is what I think it's turning to. It's turning into.
It's a PR
You know what I
circus.
mean?
Yeah.
It's a PR circus now because like what you're saying is true 1,000%, and that's what cancel culture. I think cancel culture stemmed from that, but that's not what it is anymore. So which
Yeah.
is also why I said it's confusing. Like you're trying to be unbiased, but then you're also thinking about cancel culture, and on one hand it's like okay, well we're supposed to be power to the people, supporting, uplifting, but then it's like people are literally like honestly, Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively are weaponizing cancel culture. They are using the public, they're using us like puppets to help themselves. And I honestly hope they're both held accountable for that. Because I am a fan of Justin Baldoni's work, his films, his podcast. Love me some Liz Plank. She did leave the podcast. Love her. But like, I would expect more of him than to weaponize our social, weaponize our society for his benefit. even though, yes, like me and T were saying, like he needs the help compared to Blake Lively, who has all these quote unquote dragons. But they're both doing it, they're doing a disservice to society, and I don't like it.
I have a question.
Hmm.
What do you think would have been a better alternative for him to do based off of what he was facing? Still staying unbiased, though. Not to say Blake Lively's team was
Yeah.
doing everything. Yeah, I'm not saying that, but what do you think would have been a more palatable action for him to take instead that wouldn't have felt like it was muddying the integrity of cancel culture?
Okay, I have a few
From like,
follow-ups to that. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. I
no, you're
I had
good.
a few follow-ups. Okay, one, what was he supposed to do, or what he should have done? When? At which point? Because there's a lot that's gone on. When exactly? When is the point that we're having? What action or what time period are we talking about? Are we talking about the initial one? Because the facts are so muddied up, we don't know who did what. They're accusing each other of a lot of stuff. One
Hmm.
is saying there was a social media trial, the other one is saying that, oh, she was throwing tantrums on set and she was basically taking over the show, but she probably did. But she's taking over the show. And the other one saying that, oh, he went against the social media campaign or the press campaign that was put up by Sony. So which bit are we talking about? Are we talking about the fake smear campaign? Which bit? Because there's a lot that's
Okay.
happened. We don't really know.
I assume, T, you were talking about after Lively did that first complaint with the sexual harassment. That's what I assumed you were asking, like what else could he
Yeah,
have done
definitely like
after that?
the
Initial one.
post after, after
Okay,
like the
okay.
filming and that stuff, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Wasn't the first sexual harassment complaint or the agreement that they signed during filming?
That's
There's
not,
also, there's
yeah.
Wasn't there an
muddiness
agreement?
in that.
Yeah.
It was
She said, but he said no. It's
Yeah. He said, I
and
didn't sign
it
this.
was
Sorry, go
it
ahead.
was the what's it called? The intimacy coordinator, like not having one, but having like him wanting to get one, she not wanting to meet with them, saying it's fine. Like it was messy. Okay.
Okay.
To answer T's questions first, and then Shreya, you're gonna have to reiterate your question just smaller if you have one for me, because I cannot remember it. That was a lot of words at me. I'm so
Actually asking
sorry.
T, I wasn't asking you. I want to
Okay, you were
understand
just
your
asking about
question.
what step.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which step was she talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. Okay, because you said a lot. I was like, is there something in there? Okay,
Excuse me?
I like, is there something in there like for me? Um, I think in regards to T's question about like what would have been more, what did you say, palatable for him to do?
palatable.
I think that on one hand, y'all know me. I am an avid believer in defend yourself. Don't ever just take anything just lying down. So I think it was important for him to file that file that lawsuit because hers was just a complaint. His is a lawsuit. So I think that was an important step for him to take. I think everything after that was a lie. Like I think everything out after that tainted his case because at this point you're just putting evidence after evidence after let me restate that. It's not evidence. You're just putting thing after thing out, releasing a romance film, putting out text, and that was in the lawsuit, so that was like public information. But like the more things you're putting out there and saying it's evidence, the more bias you're showing. And so I feel like he could have taken the time because all this happened within what, like a month? It was like a month or two with all the complaints and lawsuits and all that. He should have just taken time to let the public and the lawyers process what's happened, read the room, see where people are at, and if he still feels that his reputation is not under attack, but damaged maybe, his reputation is being damaged to the point where it's going to affect him being able to financially provide for him and his family, then take another step. But I feel like everything was very impulsive. I feel like after that, after her complaint and then his lawsuit, they're both right in that. You have every right to file those things. I think everything was just like impulsive, trying to like win society's what? Cancel culture. Basically, trying to win cancel culture. And so that's what I feel like would have been more palatable if he would have just filed the lawsuit, given it time, read the room, understand what's going on, and then made a choice based off of if it's going to affect him and his family moving forward. I honestly think most of the internet, most of society was on his side. I have seen Blake's negativity, quote unquote, like all those old videos, they resurface every few years. They literally do. They were already on his side, but he just got too aggressive with it, which I feel like goes against also what he stood for. Like at the end of the day, this is someone you worked with. This is someone you produced a movie with, even though allegedly, but there's a lot of proof, she took over. Like you came together to do something, it didn't work out well. Okay, stuff happens, life happens, move forward. You don't need to keep like bashing her. And this is not saying what Blake has done is okay. It's not. It really isn't. But that's a whole conversation that goes into privilege. Okay? It's a whole conversation that goes into white privilege. It's a whole conversation that goes into nepotism. It's a whole conversation that goes into people, let me restate that, women utilizing or weaponizing the fact that they are women to gain support. I don't like when women do that. So it's a whole other conversation. But I hope that answers your question. And then some.
It did.
Think of Freya, I feel like you had more to say, but I could be wrong.
No, we're good.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to bring up regarding this? I actually have a question for y'all. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I wanted to hear about the perception of Ryan Reynolds joining the chat. Of this. All right, T. We're practicing being, this is an analysis. We're
Oh,
gonna
yes.
practice being unbiased. You got it.
Unbiased.
Not unbiased, everyone's biased, but be
Conscious of our
I don't know,
bias and as rational as possible, I guess.
well, the first part more so, being
Okay.
conscious of it. But I wanted to hear your thoughts about Ryan Reynolds and like how he entered the chat of like the cancel culture, and specifically because they're all celebrities, all three of them. She happens to marry it. She happen to have had married a celebrity as well. Justin Baldoni's wife is not a celebrity, and so what do you think of that power imbalance and how that shifts cancel culture? Because so many people love Ryan Reynolds. Honestly, I hadn't heard many negative things about Ryan Reynolds until this happened. I always heard men say how much they love him. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
He does her case no favors, is what I would say. I think he comes in two guns blazing, and even they were a beloved Hollywood couple. Like even a few years ago, I'd be like, "Oh, look at them at the Met Gala. They're so cute." You know what I mean? They're a Hollywood couple. I've seen both of their things. You know, like everyone knows them. They've had mostly a squeaky clean, kind of quirky banter back online, especially wishing each other happy birthday. Like people know them for that. But I think he comes off very white male privilege. Just the certain things that he's done since this case has happened. Like I don't watch his Wolverine thing in Deadpool, but he had the nice Deadpool guy, which people are saying was very interestingly similar to Justin Baldoni. He had a man bun, a podcast, stuff like that. That was kind of like icky. I hate, not a very academic word, but it came off icky to people. His recent appearance at the SNL anniversary, I think, celebration, where he kind of poked fun at the whole situation. People were like, that's kind of weird. This is a case where your wife is alleging sexual harassment and you kind of poked fun at it in a very weird way. And a lot of people are analyzing Blake's reaction as well because she looked like she wasn't expecting that to happen. So I don't think he does it any favors, especially as it's coming out how involved he was, where he was not officially signed on to the movie in any capacity, but he rewrote some of the scenes. He was there at meetings. He allegedly got very aggressive with Baldoni at meetings that happened at their residence. So I just don't think he aids from a public persona standpoint. And I think it has caused people to look at them as a couple in a different light than they had in prior years.
I agree. It's a good take. I don't know much about his involvement with the whole situation, but it hasn't been good things that I heard or that I do know. So I think it's, well, Shreya, what do you have to say? What do you think?
No, I agree. When you read his involvement in the movie came out even before it was used as a negative or a minus point on Blake's side. Like he wrote a couple of scenes, people are like, why is he writing rewriting scenes. He has nothing to do with it. And this was even before people
Mm.
started hating Blake Lively, or all the negativity started up. So it was something that stuck out as weird.
Blake said it herself at the premiere.
Yeah,
My husband rewrote the rooftop scene, so she came
yeah,
out with it.
yeah. So it came off as weird. Even people who supported them or who were neutral were like, why?
Literally.
Yeah, so that I understand. It does not look great. It does not look great. It does not look great. Even if you support Blake Lively, it does look like, okay, a very powerful, protective husband trying to protect his wife when she feels uncomfortable on set.
Yeah.
Yes, there's also the fact that she was 5 months postpartum and she was feeling insecure about her weight, and there was an entire issue about her weight being a matter of, like, that was one of the big things, that the initial things that came out. So I guess in that he does come. If someone was pro Blake Lively or on Blake Lively's side, they would see this as, they could understand why he was acting so aggressively towards Justin Baldoni as a justification of some
Hmm.
sort. But I also see this, even if I were completely Blake Lively supporter, I would see this as him losing control of how much influence he should use against Justin Baldoni. You are powerful, you're upset. Okay, you might be justified to be upset based on whatever's happened. Might be. But you just did too much.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody stabs you with a pencil, you do not get a knife. That's not proportional in any way. It's too much. Yeah, it doesn't look good on him. Plus, I think that Wolverine movie did not do him any favors. That movie was sad and boring.
Mm-mm.
It made him look, yeah. His promotions for that movie, they were tired. The tired content, It's just,
Mm.
people were like, you don't seem that funny anymore. And then he goes ahead and does this. They're like, maybe this is your real side. I don't know.
That's kind of why I brought it up, like the whole thing you said about you don't like get a knife if someone like stabs you with a pencil, Because it kind of goes back to what T asked about, like, okay, so what would have been palatable? That is an interesting word, T. What would have
Palatable
been,
to an audience, to the public, I guess. Sorry, I interrupted you again.
yeah, no, it works. It's just it's hard for me to say. But like it goes back to what she said about that because I think Ryan Reynolds entering the conflict puts Justin Baldoni at an even more difficult place than beforehand. And again, like what I said earlier, one small miscommunication is blown out of proportion because it's filmed and like everyone's taking perspectives and Ryan Reynolds most likely wasn't there the day when like the miscommunication happened. And then he's only hearing one side from his wife. And that's his wife. He should defend her. I do believe that. Defend your wife, protect her. But to go as far as to, again, using the analogy, get a knife when someone's like stabbing you with a pencil, like, I don't know. It seems a little, it seems like you lack control of your actions. And you're
Mhm.
too old for that.
Yeah, it's
He
very
is way too old for
excessive.
that.
It's power drunk in some way. Again,
Yeah.
this, and we need to be conscious of the fact that all of this perhaps comes from the fact that we're taking Justin Baldoni's story at face value, right? Like, if we believe that Justin Baldoni is absolutely truthful in saying that Ryan Reynolds did this, Ryan Reynolds said that, I was attacked, I was this. Going by that, yes. But general public perception, he does seem to lisping all of a sudden. No, so if we go back to when it started, according to her narrative, right when he did this smear campaign against her, so during production, during the press talk, I would say
Mm.
there is evidence to say that he has told his team that, hey, if there's something bad, let it be or let it spread. There's some evidence to suggest that. I would say that don't do that. You stick to you. You doing a press tour or doing your own press tour that suits the nature of the movie, that is more sensitive, that is more appropriate in itself, and you being you in itself would have been enough. I think any person who wasn't pro Justin or pro Blake Lively, but was sitting in between, and they see all that's happening, they're like, why did he have to do all that preemptive stuff? Because that, in a way, shows
Hmm.
guilt. You're scared. But on the other hand, he's scared that this lady's going to do something against him, so he went ahead and did this to protect himself. So, where are we? Guilt, self defense. preemptive self-defense.
This is assuming. Sorry, you like froze for a second. I thought you were done, but you were frozen.
Sorry, go.
I was just gonna say this is assuming that he did do the smear campaign, because that is one thing I don't know. You know what? Let me not even give an opinion. Let me sit here and just stay academic about it. But yeah, okay. So moving away from this, I feel
I
like we
did
could talk about
preface
this
my
for
statement by saying if
hours.
he did. If he did. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, when you were frozen.
Yeah.
I did no,
I
right
think
at
it
the
changes
beginning.
based off of but yeah, I agree. I think it changes based off of whose perspective you're looking at based off of the information
Mm-hmm.
we have. So you're right. Yeah.
It literally depends. But okay. But yeah, let's move forward because it's like around 40 minutes, I think. I don't know. We spent like 30 minutes not doing anything proper. But moving forward away from this, we could talk about this as a case study for like years, honestly. There is so much that happened within the last 2 to 3 months. But let's just talk about cancel culture as a whole and specifically when it comes to storytelling. So let's talk about two different things. But first, we'll talk about how cancel culture affects people who are telling stories, and then how cancel culture affects the audience, people receiving stories. But let's focus in first on someone's ability to effectively tell their story. Specifically those who are I guess, those who are high risk of receiving cancel culture, like content creators, celebrities, journalists, etc.
Okay. This is something that I thought about. I'm not sure everybody's thinking along the same lines. I always felt that cancel culture is like this stick that the public wields against everybody who are public against all public figures. In a way, I feel it hampers authenticity because you're scared to say
Mm-hmm.
what you're actually thinking, because you're scared that it might be taken out of context, that you might be punished for your thoughts. And I think that's where it becomes dangerous because nobody should be punished for their thoughts. It might be wrong, it might be repulsive, but I don't think anybody should be punished for their thoughts, but rather for their actions. Yeah. So I
Real
think
quick, I I think people. Okay, you know what? Go ahead. Let me think about my thoughts.
yeah,
I know what I'm gonna say, but I just want
yeah,
to make sure I'm saying it right.
yeah. No, I also forget about people who end up saying blatantly racist stuff or inappropriate things or just bad stuff that
Mm-hmm.
should be morally censured. Not about that, so like small things that they perhaps did as teenagers, inconsequential things that they've learned from, that they've grown from, and that comes out of light, and then they're scared because they have to say this particular thing to the public, otherwise they would be hated on or they would get cancelled and their career is damaged in some way. It's important to be conscious of what you say and how you behave and how you act and how your actions and behavior impacts others. You should also give room to people to be human. Sometimes, especially in
Mm-hmm.
India, that's gone away. You're not allowed to be human anymore. You're not allowed to make mistakes or say something stupid. Everybody's out with, everybody's out to get you. Feels like a witch trial sometimes. Anyway.
It's
I
fine.
agree with you on the point of there's like a lack of authenticity now because people, as I mentioned earlier, like it's just something that I feel like a lot of public figures and companies keep in mind now because they know there's a risk of cancel culture arising if they have an opinion that doesn't align with what the masses think or if they don't even speak out about certain issues. And so I was really thinking about summer 2020 and after George Floyd was murdered, how there was like this huge wave of celebrities being called out for problematic behavior. I mean, deservingly so in some cases. But it led to a whole bunch of people losing a lot of their brand deals, their esteem, whatever. Like Leah
Mm.
Michelle, she lost her HelloFresh campaign. I'm sorry. Why did I laugh?
What did she do?
I laugh too. I laugh
What
too.
did she do? What did she do?
Okay, sorry. Like Leah Michelle, she lost her partnership with HelloFresh after Samantha, where she played Jane in season 6 of Glee. She talked about how she experienced terrible microaggressions from Leah Michelle on set, and so it came with all this public backlash. But it had kind of been an open secret that Leah Michelle kind of had problematic behavior, but you could really see professional losses happen to Leah Michelle. And then there's this other
Mm-hmm.
actor, his name's Hartley Sawyer. He was an actor on The Flash. I don't know if y'all have watched that. but he was fired in 2020 after his past tweets that he did, they were racist and misogynist. They resurfaced and he was fired from the show. But I feel like that was a time where it was so heated, like the block was hot, y'all. It was really hot,
Yeah.
and so people were just getting called out, and I think you saw a wave of celebrities and companies especially making all of these stances and also campaigns and programs to help align with public persona, but the authenticity of it, I do call into question, especially with some of the companies now like Target, how quickly they rolled back DEI things. The integrity of the things that they put in place seems disingenuous because it seems like they were going along with it so that they would avoid cancel culture, which I thought is
Mm.
interesting. But yeah, so your
Okay.
point about authenticity, yes.
It
I
also,
have a lot to.
I'm so sorry, just a
You're
point,
good.
just one
You
more.
can go ahead.
It sometimes seems like it's just people are conforming to this to maintain a public image, and it's tokenism in the end of the day, especially the bit of
Absolutely.
a diversity. It's tokenism.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do anything. It doesn't really reflect in any way, and you can see a lot of people backpedaling on what their initial stance was after the new administration, which is telling in itself. Yeah.
Rose?
Rose? Sorry, I've never heard my name like that. Okay. Um, I have a lot to say. I wrote it on the back of this check because I left my notebook downstairs. I'm just gonna take it off. I agree about the inauthenticity, 1000%. That's one. Two, the Leah Michelle thing. Literally, when I think of Leah Michelle, and I'll tie this back in later with my answer to this question. When I think of Leah Michelle, I think about what she said to that black girl. She said, "Excuse my language," but she said, she threatened her saying, "I'll in your wig." Like, what? Like what? Like I'm laughing, but like I cannot believe someone would say that. Especially when at that point she came in what the final season of Glee, season 6. Like Glee was monumental, iconic, changed culture. You know what you were a part of, and you're gonna, I don't know. Like I don't think there's an excuse for that at that point, right? There's certain moments in cancel culture where it's deserved, genuinely. Um, and then okay, now the two big things I had to say. Shreya, you said when I was gonna say something and then I needed to think on it. When you were like, you don't think people should be punished for their thoughts, rather more so they should be punished for their actions, for what they do. And I like 70% agree with that statement. Only because I think if you decide to put your thoughts out there, knowing that your thoughts are bringing harm to another community or another identity or another group of people, whatever, then I do think there's some form of punishment that needs to happen for that. But I also don't like the form or the use of the word punishment. Where you like throughout this whole conversation, we've been using punishment. My whole article is about accountability or punishment. I feel like we're allowing ourselves, not we're, but like we're as a society, not the three of us, the society, we're putting ourselves in a position to be judge, jury, and executioner where we act as if our moral and ethical standards are like elite and everyone should follow us. And it really makes me think about colonialism, like, and missionary work. Like a lot of colonialism was hidden behind missionary work. Like, oh, we're going to come and we're going to heal you because we know God and God will save you. Like, it's just, it's hidden behind all these layers of like, we know what's best. And at the end of the day, we don't. Like, we act like it, but we make mistakes too. And like I said earlier, and like you said, Shreya, like, you you lose the opportunity to be human. Like you lose the opportunity to grow. Cancel culture was brought to my attention in high school because, well, I'm from a white area, okay? I grew up with mainly white people. And so in high school, there was a lot of videos that would come out of white people saying the N word. Like people would just be like, they would be at a party, they say it, and then someone they thought was their friend wasn't their friend and would put it on like Snapchat or something. And then they would be quote unquote canceled. Like that's how I was introduced to it. And it's not that I felt bad for them, the people who got canceled in high school. I just always worried about like their future because like that really affects your ability to get into college, to get a job. Like that's your digital footprint. It's there forever. It's not going to go away. And it's like they're 15, like 14, 15, maybe 16. 17, whatever. Like they're children. They're still learning about these things. They probably have parents at home who are using the same language and they don't understand the difference yet. It's not an excuse for what they've done. It's not an excuse for the way that it's affected other people. It just means that they have more room to grow, but we're not giving it to them. So, I mean, I was never friends with any of those people because like, I don't, you don't have to put this in, but me being friends with a racist person is crazy. Like, like, let me find out your rate. Let me hear one microaggression and I'm your friend. Crazy. Anyway, back to the recording. But yeah, that was just a response to what both of y'all said. Great comments, by the way. My answer to this question, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know what podcast. I need to figure it out by Wednesday so I can put it in my article. But Trevor Noah was being interviewed and he had this one quote that I can't directly quote because I can't find it. But he basically was talking about how he's like, when you're well known, you forget how beautiful and I think he said like tranquil it is to have to be not to be anonymous. Wait, to be anonymous. Like once you're well known, he gave the example of like Luke Skywalker. He was like, think of it this way. Luke Skywalker, if you meet him before he meets Yoda. If I'm wrong, I have never seen Star Wars. No one jump down my throat, okay? But he gave the example of like Luke Skywalker before he meets Yoda. If he goes and he's like, hi, my name is Luke, I'm this, I'm just a person. And then if you meet Luke after he meets Luke, or after he meets Yoda, he's like, hi, I'm Luke, I'm a Jedi. And then if you meet Luke after he figures out whoever that person is his father, you're like, hi, I'm Luke, I'm this. Like, Luke has the opportunity to consistently reinvent himself based off of the story and the point in life that he is there. But if Luke was a celebrity, and all we knew him from was being a Jedi, what he does after doesn't really matter. What he does before, it's acknowledged, but not fully. It's about that moment in that story that we acknowledge. Like, kind of going back to the Blake and Justin thing, they're celebrities and they won't have the beauty and the tranquility that comes with being anonymous. They won't be able to consistently reinvent their story. They won't be able to come up to me and be like, hi, I'm Blake. Hi, I'm Justin. And me be able to just get their story from them and only them. I can try, but I already have all this information. So I think that really affects someone's ability to tell their story on a more interpersonal level. Obviously, the inauthenticity. Obviously, the inauthenticity that you guys were talking about as well on a more like public level, but on the personal level, it also affects them there because you can never really just tell your story the way you want it to be told. It's already out there. So I'll try and find the quote. I'll try and find the interview. But yeah, Trevor Noah, he ate that up. He really did.
That's
It was nuts.
interesting. 100% agree. Lovely points. I just have one thing to say to that though. Um, when a person expresses their thoughts by saying it, that's an action. So you can totally be held your words can be held against you in that sense. Um, if you end up saying something hateful against a person, yeah, you deserve what's coming. It's just
I
when, yeah, so 100% agree with your comment on that, Rose. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of arguments on cancel culture with people saying, "Oh, it's like an infringement on the First Amendment, your freedom of speech and everything." And here's my thing. You have the freedom of speech to say whatever you want. But once you say it and people take that in, they have the right to react however they want to. I think when you think about those rights that we have, it doesn't work just one way. You know what I mean? And social media, once it's out, it's out. People can react however they want to react. And if you say something that's problematic or maybe doesn't sit right with certain groups of people, they have every right to call you out on it. In terms of it being a punishment, I understand that because I think sometimes cancel culture is used sometimes when people just don't agree with what you say, which if it's not offensive, I don't think that's grounds for cancel culture. People are allowed to have different thoughts and opinions than you. But if it borders on the line of offensive, yeah, people have every right to try to hold you accountable. I don't agree with a lot of the negativities that happen on social media, death threats. I don't subscribe to that. No, don't do that. But people have the right to express opposition to what you say.
100%. It's a two-way street. You can't just be like, I have the right to say whatever I want to say. Yes, and they have It's a two-way street. Absolutely right. But my thing is, food for thought, or maybe a question in general is, when does it become too much? Yes, what they said was wrong and they should be held accountable because it was offensive. But like how Rose said, who are you to decide whether this person should lose their job, lose their career, lose all prospects of earning a living, lose out on substantial amount of their income? What is proportional? What is the right level? Like, where do we stop?
Mhm.
That's an important, because we think about it. I said something horrible as a teenager, but I've grown since then. I know what I said was terrible. My actions have changed and it resurfaces all over again. And suddenly now I'm being cancelled. I've lost projects. All that work that I put in 20 years or so gone down the drain. People hate me
Mhm.
now. So where exactly do we draw that balance? Because it's like there's no leashing it back in. There's no putting it back in a box. Once it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
And and everybody is so scared now that if you're associated with someone who is associated with something that is being cancelled right now, they'll they'll drop you. Any big company, corporation, they'll drop you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know whether this sort of economic censure is the right way of going about it. Especially in cases where you see that, okay, what you said was terrible, but do you have to lose your livelihood for that? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
I think that is an interesting point. Like, what's the statute of limitations on comments that you say in the past? Like,
Mm.
I think it's dicey because sometimes it's like it was 10 years ago, or sometimes they were a kid. So it is. I don't know.
Okay, here's a
Okay.
thought on this topic. Here's a good example. Cynthia Erivo and how those old
Mm,
tweets that she had that were like rude and disrespectful about African Americans as a whole, right? Those are old tweets. But she played Harriet Tubman. Okay?
Lord, she
Harriet
did.
Tubman. She ate that role up. She
Ate
was
it
so good.
down.
She was so good in that. She was in The Color Purple. Like she's in these prominent stories about African American history. And then it comes out that years ago she posted tweets or said comments that were disrespectful and rude about African Americans. Like I think it's not necessarily a matter of like what's the statute of limitations, even though I really love how you worded that. That was beautiful. Snaps. I think it's more a matter of like, are your actions lining up with it? Because if
Mm,
I was Cynthia Erivo, I would make sure that, and I'm not. I can't do that. I know that. Okay. Anyway, if I was Cynthia Erivo, I would be very adamant about the fact, understanding my previous biases and thoughts, because she didn't just say that to be funny or sweet. Like that was her thought process at the time. Like understanding my previous bias and thoughts, having this growth, understanding what African Americans have gone through by playing Harriet, being in The Color Purple, living in America for a long period, like just understanding what African American culture is, I would do something to elevate that. I would do something to talk about my growth, to educate people from the UK, educate people in Europe about African American culture because it's a common thing in Europe, Black European culture to like be
yeah.
disrespectful about African Americans
What
and
did
their
she end up saying
experiences.
though? I'm sorry, I have no idea.
I don't remember. I honestly, it was a long time ago when I heard it. I don't know if you remember T, but it's basically along the lines of what.
No, I'll Google it. Sorry, I just wanted to know what you guys were saying so that I can understand where this is coming from. Sorry. I'm sorry for
No,
disturbing.
you're good. You're good. Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying, but I don't think it's a matter of statute of limitations. I think it's a matter of just like if there was growth there, you talk about the growth, and then you do something. You take some steps to make sure that the community you were part of that induced or helped to create or nurture those disrespectful thoughts can learn from you. Like I don't think there's ever such thing as statute of limitations. You said it, it's always going to be there. But make sure that your growth is seen and not an inauthentic growth, like genuinely. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely believe Cynthia Erivo has learned from what she says. I do think she holds a different perspective now, but you said it. So now use your platform to do something about it, right? Like don't just
Yeah.
like not really fully acknowledge it. Um, yeah, I don't know what we were talking about as a whole before then, because we
I
have one
think
more question. But oh, go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Connected to this, I think there has to be some way that you get out in front of it. Now, obviously, when you're building your career, you don't want to say, hey, I used to be racist. Nobody wants to say that because you're trying to build your platform. You know what I mean? But I think it's better coming from the person taking accountability than people digging it up and being like, oh, look at what you
Yeah,
used to say.
I
You know what I
agree.
mean? And I don't follow closely with like Cynthia. I can never say her last name.
I think it's pronounced Arivo. I could be wrong.
Revo. My girl Cynthia. I don't follow closely everything that she's done, so I don't know what she said to her past or if she even has said anything. But I have
Hmm.
noticed that even like discourse on social media, a lot of people are kind of split on supporting her. And I think that has to lend itself to maybe she didn't get in front of it and didn't say anything to kind of like say, hey, I've learned from this. I don't feel this way anymore. But I don't think she'll be canceled because I think she's almost an EGOT winner. You know, it's like she just has so much,
Yeah,
but people are split on her. And especially when you're minorities, when you're in a minority, having like your an identity group that you're so closely tied to not supporting you, I think that can be detrimental if something does happen because the white people ain't always gonna defend you the way a minority group is. And if they're
yeah.
even rocky on you, I think it can be detrimental. But I hope that she feels differently now, and I guess she does, but who could say, you know? Who could say? But it causes discourse to this day about people like, yeah, we don't support her because she said X, Y, and Z in the past.
Yeah.
I just saw a
And every
TikTok the other day.
really,
Yeah.
I think it's I do want to say people have every right not to, well, in this situation, either not to support her or in another situation, like if someone says something from the past, people have every right to still be upset about it and they have every right not to want to engage with someone who has taken part in that. Like, it's fair. All I'm cautioning people to think about is the fact that no one's perfect. At one point, we have all said something ignorant. At one point, we have all said something disrespectful, and we have learned from it. And some people just aren't exposed to the opportunities and the experiences that others are. So they don't really know better. Again, not an excuse, but at least give them if you don't have to engage with them, just give them the space to grow. And if you see that they've grown, okay. If you haven't, continue, just disengage. Like that's it, leave it alone. It does not hurt.
Said cut them off.
I'm not like a block type person. I'm just like we'll just stop talking. Like I just won't engage with you anymore. Like that's it. But yeah. On that note, we have one more question. We can answer it or not. At this point, we are at an hour because there really is about like 20 to 30 minutes of just nothing.
Interesting question to ask, actually. What do you guys think about separating the art from the artist?
Ooh, that's a good question.
This
I
is
think
Let
that's
me.
relevant.
difficult. I have a
Mm-hmm.
few examples where it's hard for me, but I'm not sure if my childhood nostalgia makes it harder for some versus others. So
I agree.
let me give a few examples. I won't listen to R. Kelly. What he did, terrible. I won't listen to him. But I still watch The Cosby Show to this day. I love me some Cosby Show. I didn't really grow up on R. Kelly. I believe I could fly. I knew of it, but I didn't really, I didn't know who the artist was. I
Yeah.
just knew the song. I still watch The Cosby Show. And I think the way that I kind of have looked at it, which I don't think this is like my full philosophy because I don't think it applies to everything, but at least for these two artists, how I look at it is R. Kelly is one person, his musical act, it was just him, it was R. Kelly. But like with the Cosby Show, I look at it as a ensemble. Yeah, Bill Cosby was like the main person, his name was on it and everything, but there were so many other people that worked on making the Cosby Show what it was that I can
Mm-hmm.
separate it. Like I see that as when I'm watching the Cosby Show, I'm looking at Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable. That's not Bill Cosby. That's not him. I'm looking at Dr. Huxtable. That's who that is. And so I'm able to separate it. But I also do acknowledge I grew up watching The Cosby Show. That grew up as a beloved show in my household. So I think I'm biased, but those are the two examples that I normally think about when I think of separating the artist from the art. But that's a great question because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, it's a toughie.
Um,
Interesting.
okay. So here's my thing. I think, okay, when people say separate the artist from the art, like just separate it, part of me is like, I get it. Like, for example, Chris Brown. All right. He has great music, not the
Yeah.
best person.
No.
Like, great music, not the best person. And when we're like, okay, just separate the music from the art, it's also like you can't really do that because when you're listening to the music and interact and like looking at the music videos and all that, you're putting money in their pockets
Mhm.
directly and indirectly. So that's like the main thing that I have when it comes to like separate the artist from the artist. Like you're putting money in those people's pockets. You're giving them a stronger or bigger platform. So I don't think there's a right way to go about it. I don't think there's a right way for separating the artist from the art. But I think people forget about that sometimes. They're just like, it was such a good song. It is such a good song that you're putting like $100 in his pocket by how many times you listen to it, right? Like, let's really think about it. My thing is on the nostalgia aspect of it. Demi Lovato is my girl. Since I was a kid, since she was in Barney, like my favorite Barney episode, it was her and Selena. Like I've followed Demi Lovato and I've loved Demi Lovato since I was really, really young. And so like there was something she did like a few years back where she got upset at this, I think she got upset at a yogurt company because they put the calorie count on their menu or something. Something like that. I still don't fully understand the situation, but people were upset because like she was really mean to the yogurt company and like they kind of lost like following and income, but then people were like, "Oh, you're being dramatic." I don't know. I don't remember the situation. I just remember in the moment thinking like, "Not my girl Demi." Like wholeheartedly, I don't if Demi Lovato is ever canceled, I don't know if I would stop listening to her music. I really don't. I can't promise you I'm not going to watch Camp Rock or Princess Protection Program again or Sunny with a Chance. Like I can't make that promise. I can't make that guarantee. I don't think I've been put in a place where I have to do the whole like, oh, separate the artist from the art. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what the right answer is if there is one, but Demi Lovato, if like down the line, hopefully not. She's engaged. She's doing so well. Her hair is beautiful. Like she's doing so good. But if down the line something happens and she gets canceled, I genuinely do not know how I'll react to that. Like at all. So I don't know. It's hard. But like T just said, that is a good question.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Because it ties up a lot of what we discussed, right? Like, how far back can we
Mhm.
go?
Mhm.
What is fair when it comes to ensuring accountability? Like, okay, to what extent would you say are the natural consequences of someone's wrongdoings through
Mhm.
cancel culture? And you said something, T, about the Bill Cosby show was not just Bill Cosby. There were other
Yeah.
characters that you watched, but that's true for any um product in that way, right? If you look at what was that show with that guy? It was a very political show. What was it? What the name?
A
No
political
idea.
show?
Really messed up guy. Really, really messed up guy. Very famous though. Did some
I
really
have no
awful
idea.
things. I mean, there was a final season with his wife, the character who played his wife, which was terrible. Anyway, the point is, House of Cards. Have you guys seen that?
House of No, but
No, it was
I can
never my
picture
cup
the
of
guy, but I
tea.
don't know.
Yeah, okay, so he was accused of pedophilia, I think. I don't know what. I think there was some really, really strong allegations against him, and honestly, terrible things. But when you look at movies, let's say, so in India, we have this culture where movies get cancelled because the lead actor said something that was not okay. But how many people are associated with that movie? How many artists are working on that movie, that particular production? How much time has gone into it? This guy's just a part of it, or this person is just a part of it. So aren't we punishing everybody else as well? Or is it so
Mhm.
questions that come up? Also, when you look at a person, this is an argument I've heard. I don't know how far I subscribe to it. I still have to think about it. But this argument that I've heard that you take a person has good and bad in them. They've done terrible things, but they're also really good things about them that are worth praise, that are worth appreciation. Like you have a terrible personality, but man, you can sing. That's true art. It's like God's gift.
Mm.
So are we painting the entire person basically? Okay, so basically, are we ignoring everything good about a person because there's this one aspect about them that's terrible?
Mhm.
Or are we saying that, yeah, this is good, but I still think you should be judged solely by that one thing that is bad about you, or that multiple things that are bad about you outmask
Mhm.
anything good that you can possibly do? Because we're all existing shades of gray. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Depends. But yeah.
I think it depends. It depends on the depth of which, like what the bad is. Like a good example, well, you haven't seen Glee, but you've seen
Leah
Glee.
Michelle,
Puck,
yeah.
sorry.
What do you do? What do you do?
Ali and Michelle, I don't think this is a smiling matter. He basically was, I'm pretty sure, like already arrested for possession of child pornography. And before he could get like charged and everything, like arraigned, all that, he killed himself. So, like in that case with Glee, before I knew this, like Puck was on, I really liked Puck. Like I thought Puck was funny. I liked a lot of the duets that he sang, and I thought he brought a lot of energy to Glee as a whole. And then it's like he did such a bad, like I think the abuse of children is somewhere where I draw the line. Like no, I can't. Like that's a line I can't cross. So now it's like when I watch it and I'm watching Glee and I'm laughing at Puck, literally without fail, just about every time I think about the fact that he was in possession of child pornography. I cannot get, no matter how much I like Puck as a character, the person himself, I don't remember his name, like I can't get that out of my head.
Mark
Like I'm like, oh,
Salling.
I'm laughing. Mark Sailing. Okay. I'm laughing like, oh, he said something funny. Oh, while you were filming this, you were looking on your phone that had child porn. Like I cannot get it out of my head. Like I really can't. But when I watch Glee and I see Leah Michelle, like well, her character's annoying, so it's kind of easy. But I don't really think too much about like the racist comments. Like I can kind of separate it because I can separate her from Rachel, the character. Like it's easier for me to do that. And I think maybe it's because like kind of racism is not normalized. We're a little bit desensitized from racism because of how much we talk about it now and how much is brought to our attention. And so maybe that kind of plays a role in the fact that I can separate her from Rachel and I can just like focus in on like what she's acting. But when I think about Mark Saley, you said his name is,
Sailing.
and Sailing and like the child pornography, I can't separate him from Puck. I just can't.
There's
So
a difference between being a diva and being someone who's in possession of child pornography.
child pornography,
Yeah.
like there's a difference between being like someone who holds racist ideologies and beliefs and takes part in microaggressions and someone who literally has contributed to the harm of another person, specifically a child. Like I think it depends the degree to which the negativity is there rather than like if it outweighs the good, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Glee could be a whole other case study, by the way.
Yeah, a lot there.
Glee is crazy. There's a lot
That's
to
so
unpack there.
deadpan. Yeah, a lot there.
No, but seriously, like the whole cast is, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
also my phone's at 10, so yeah, we have to wrap this up. And we started when it was at 85.
Period.
Okay, well, that was cancel culture. There was a lot there, obviously. Let us know your thoughts. That's all I have to say. Oh, and this week it is our themed weeks. Monday or tomorrow, T's blog post about cancel culture will come out. Wednesdays, my blog post about cancel culture will come out, and Thursday, Sherry's blog post about cancel culture will come out. So stay tuned. You can see the link to our website in our bio, I think. I don't know if I put it there, but if it's not there, I'll put it there before this comes out. Okay, that's it.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mosaic podcast.
Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay updated on new posts and episodes. Also, tune in to our blog where T. Marie posts every Monday, Roseberry every Wednesday, and I, Shreya, every Thursday.
We're grateful you're here, and we look forward to embracing the intersections of identity together in the episodes to come. Until next time,
Stay curious.
Stay true.
and stay unapologetically you. Bye.